Doing nothing is basically the same as doing everything, which doesn't make sense at first, right? But sometimes you don't need more, you just need less. And you might be even more confused now. But we live in a world where doing nothing is pretty much seen as kind of wasting time, hustle culture, you're grinding, maybe you're consuming or achieving. There's a lot of distractions out there, and it will constantly make you feel like you're falling behind. And so sometimes taking a break from all of this and doing absolutely nothing can save you, because sometimes being still and kind of observing the moment can be the most powerful thing that you do. And I guess as humans, we've always kind of been addicted to something at any sort of given point in time, but more so now in the modern age. Whenever something bad happens, our typical first instinct is to escape. If you've ever noticed that you feel sad on any kind of day, you just go ahead and maybe order your favorite takeout, or maybe you start to binge watch a show or something to avoid basically sitting with yourself. And the issue with that is that the more that we escape, the more that the problem kind of builds up, and the more that we kind of train ourselves to kind of fear being alone with our own thoughts. And it's like we're just coping from a lot of our mental issues by running away from it. And the thing is, running away from your mind is never ever going to fix anything, because it just postpones the problem. And there's nothing wrong with, doing any of those things to kind of distract ourselves sometimes, because sometimes you get overwhelmed, it happens. But it can easily create a kind of pattern where it's like it happens a lot more regularly than you want it to be, And if you distract yourself by, hustling all the time, you don't always have to be productive, because sometimes your worth isn't really tied to just your output. And sometimes the greatest sort of thoughts you can get about what it is you're trying to hustle for can come in silence. It's not really wasting time as much as we kind of make it seem. It's kind of reintroducing yourself to who you really are, like the real you underneath all of these distractions that you kind of bombard yourself with. I mean, the chances are you're on YouTube now. I don't know what video you're watching before this, but maybe you're distracting yourself right now. And the thing is, over time, I mean, even including myself, right? You get kind of scared of boredom, but it's like, once you really realize like how powerful your brain is, boredom is sometimes when you get the best ideas. Like, your brain is fun to think with. Obviously, maybe not at the start, because you've got a lot of issues and overthinking and this and that to kind of deal with. But after a while, once you kind of get to know it, it's like your friend, it wanders, it can imagine nice things, it can create good thoughts, it can create great ideas. It's like ChatGPT, but for yourself. We gotta make use of it somehow, And so I ask you, when was the last time you just let your brain wander? And not even only when, where were you at the time? Because normally it happens during times where you're the most present. And that would be pretty helpful to kind of get yourself into again. But you're probably like, man, Ray, I struggle to kind of be quiet and kind of be silent. Like my brain is just full of noise. And that's okay. We can kind of dissect that a little bit over time. We can start to kind of treat things or write things down, some kind of creative expression where there's an outlet for these kind of thoughts to come, so it's more clear and structured. And then you can start to sit down with these problems and your brain and make some fun solutions, which may sound boring, but when you try to make it as fun as possible, it makes it a lot more easier to do. And for some of you, you might think that you need to earn this silence or quote unquote rest, right? But rest isn't really a reward that we should kind of be going to, because it's more so of a necessity. It's so easy to kind of get into that productivity loophole. It's so easy to get into that productivity loop without realizing that sometimes the most productive thoughts come from when you're alone. And if you actually look at a lot of the kind of great artists and creators, usually it comes from time by themselves, at least their sort of greatest pieces of art. Solitude, if you will. Because like when you stop kind of consuming constantly, and that's with anything, like I said, it relates to productivity, it relates to kind of consuming content, food, even just basic activities. You kind of start to create more thoughts and ideas because there's a lot more energy that's kind of going towards your brain to kind of fully function, I guess. But we lack that nowadays. And the whole point of this video is to try to make you understand that. Because the world moves fast, man. But the thing is, it moves fast, but you don't have to. And sometimes slowing down can be really, really useful. So, how can you break free from escapism? And you can take the most like brute force kind of attitude for this and just completely cold turkey your phone and all of the other sort of distractions that you may have, but I'm not really going to recommend that. And the reason why is because it's very easy to kind of get into a trap of just binging, stopping, and they can become quite toxic. So I'd say step one is probably to kind of start to just build some awareness. You know, it's play the long game. The long and slow game is the most boring one, but it's the one that yields the most output. So you have to recognize when you're escaping, number one. And it doesn't have to be every single time. Maybe you can just analyze at the end of the day what kind of triggers you had to kind of make those consumptions happen. Was it because you were sad? Did you eat that junk food because you were maybe angry at something? You know, give yourself some time. Study yourself. It's fun to study yourself, man. But without judgment. A lot of us love to judge constantly. It's like, it's crazy. Just accept yourself for exactly who you are. You don't have to fix everything immediately. You just want to build awareness. And when you build awareness, you're just 50 steps ahead of practically everyone else. Because it takes courage to accept yourself rather than just say, oh man, I'm just an idiot, or you know, all this negative self-doubt talk you give yourself. It's horrible, and it's just not worth it. So give your mind some space. Maybe sometimes you can find it when you go for a walk, or maybe you sit in silence. Maybe you should reflect at the end of your day. It's a pretty good habit to start to develop. Whatever works for you, try it. Just try. There ain't no harm in trying. And if it doesn't work, go to the next thing and the next thing. But I would say that probably the most important step is going to be kind of to stop seeing being still and doing nothing as wasting your time. Because if you actually do it right, it can be really helpful. I'm not talking about sitting still and just again being on your phone. I'm talking about actually being still and just chilling with yourself, just vibing. It's a hard skill to have, but it's a very valuable skill to have, because you can take that and you can apply it to the real world. If you go out into public, you go into a restaurant or something like that, a lot of people are on their phones, a lot of people are distracted. You don't need to be. You can just be chilling with your own thoughts, and you might just have that sort of clarity to what you need to start doing next. You start to move in sync with everything that goes right because you're thinking properly. Anyway, I do hope that helps, and I appreciate you guys for watching. And if you want to see more videos just like this, subscribe. Anyway, I'll catch you guys in the next one.